Howdy everyone. There's Sully way back there under the tree. And over here it's kind of hard to see. My zoom isn't very good, but that's Bucky. And thought I'd come out here and do a video. Bucky's been hanging out with Sully all afternoon, so I was hoping to maybe catch him in the video a little bit. But we'll see how long he hangs around with me being out here and talking. He'll probably run away fairly quickly. Hey Bucky! It's like Sully's best pal right there. Of course, all the antelope and deer come around here. They like hanging around Sully. They seem to feel kind of safe with him. So anyway, today I want to talk about an experience I had with Sully at a previous boarding place that I had him at. Bucky's getting nervous now. But as a disclaimer, before I really get into it, please don't take my story as an example of what you should do. Like I said before, I'm not a horse trainer. I don't do everything right. So I would not recommend that y'all follow my lead in what I did. But it does create a very good story and a very good example for what I want to talk about today, which is trust. Specifically, trust in God and your relationship with Him. So, with that being said, let me get into my story. So, the place where I had Sully at, he was out on pasture board, and there were several other horses there. And it was a situation where I didn't feed Sully, and up until I'd moved him there, that was kind of like how I caught my horse. Like he knew to come to me when I called him, because, you know, twice a day when I called him, he'd be, oh, well, it's food time. So he would come up and I wouldn't have to bribe him with anything, because he knew there's a good chance that he was going to get fed. Where'd he go? There he is. Bye, Bucky. Sorry, silly boy. I ran off your friend. But with being at a place where I was not responsible for Sully's feed, I had to come up with a way to encourage him to want to come to me when I called him. And so what I ended up doing was, go Sully! He was on a supplement at the time, and so instead of having the barn feed it, I just fed it to him once a day. And so my routine was I would call Sully, I would have his little bucket with his supplement, which he took kind of like a treat. And when he'd come up when I called him, he'd have to let me put the halter on him, and then when I told him he was a good boy, he could have his treat. And, you know, sometimes I would just go out there, catch him, let him go. Sometimes I'd bring him in and groom him. And then other times, you know, I'd catch him to work him. So that way he didn't really become sour to coming and getting the halter on, because it didn't always mean work. Well, part of that, with him being out in a herd with other horses, when I go out there with a bucket, guess what? Everybody wants the treat, right? Everybody wants the goodie. And so what I did was I would go out with, you know, my halter and use the lead rope either as a whip, or if I felt the horse was really feisty, or, you know, I just wanted a little extra distance between me and the other horses, I had a whip that I would take out there just to extend my reach. It kind of, sounds and makes me look a little bit more bad, so that the other horses wouldn't run me over. And so what eventually happened was the other horses would learn that, hey, that crazy lady comes out and yells Sully's name and he goes running. There's really no use for us to go running and chasing after, because she never gives us anything to eat. In fact, she just chases us off and away from the food. And my guy, usually he's, at the bottom of the herd, or maybe like the upper middle part sometimes. I mean, he'll have his days where he thinks he's bad and he'll try and move up, but reality is he sits usually pretty low in a herd. So whenever I have him in like a new place where he's with other horses, there's always having to establish that even though the other horses are higher than him, when I come out here, they don't have say over what he does. I do. And that I'm higher than the other horses. So, it worked out pretty well. And, whenever a new horse would come into the boarding facility, then I'd have to, restart everything, establish my place with the new horse that, hey, you don't run me over, I'm not here for you. So it went pretty well until we got, I say we, wasn't my place, but got a new horse. And it was a very, very pushy, very dominant horse. Even the workers there at the time, they were even nervous about dealing with this crazy horse. Like, everybody's like, oh, it's, unpredictable, kind of dangerous or whatever. But just a really dominant horse that got its way a lot, it seems like. So, I went back to, I treated it no different than the other horses. Went back to carrying my whip and making sure that this new dominant horse didn't come running me over. And I would chase it away whenever it would get too close, or, try to take Sully's supplement or whatever. And in the middle of me trying to establish all this, which was going pretty good, didn't have any incidents, but we got tested pretty good one day. It was cold and it was raining. And so I'm not saying that what I did was the best thing. Probably was not the best day to kind of continue this establishing dominance thing. But I went out there like usual. However, sorry, I'm stuttering, people. I didn't have my whip that day. I just took a lead rope since it was raining pretty hard, and I took my umbrella. Sully's been around the umbrella, so he knows what it is. Not saying that he doesn't get nervous if I haven't used it in a while, but he's used to it. He knows what it is, versus the other horses out there were pretty scared of it. So the umbrella helped me in kind of warding off other horses. So anyway, I call him, he comes running, and the whole herd comes running, and they're like frisky and crazy. And Sully comes running up to me. I put the bucket down and I just let him eat. I wasn't going to catch him or anything. And I had all the other horses like circle around us. So I had already established with the other horses that, I'm dominant when I come out there. But the new lead horse was really feeling bad that day in the rain and everything. Like, it was just, he just decided to test his limits. So what it became was me circling and keeping this horse away. He would duck in and I would go and cut him off and make him change directions, and I'd push him out. Doing all this in the rain with my umbrella with other horses watching us and not really paying attention to where my horse was. Looking back, it probably wasn't the smartest decision. But my horse, he stood there like a champ. He knows that when I go out there, I'm boss and he's safe with me. And I'm not gonna lie, like, that was kind of an intense moment. I was definitely saying my prayers to God of, okay, let me do the right thing, let me not get hurt, and let me not cause a situation where the horses will get too crazy and too hurt. Everything turned out well. I was able to keep the dominant horse away from me, and Sully got to eat a supplement, and I was able to leave the area safely with the bucket and nobody ran me over. And stuff worked out well because that was pretty much the last fight I ever had with that horse. Ever since then, when I'd go out there, you know, if I call Sully, sure, the whole herd might come running up, but then they'd part out and give a wide berth between me and them. Only Sully would come up running to me. Now, it wasn't like the other horses were afraid of me, because I could go out there, and I did daily usually go out there and scratch all the horses. So I didn't want all the horses to be afraid of me, but I wanted them to respect me, and I wanted them to know that they don't call the shots when I go out there. Like, I'm the one who says whether you can approach me or not, and if I say no, you better stay back. So, really long story, and the reason I bring it up is because it's a really good example, and it's something that I look back and I'm in awe of how much my horse trusts me. It would not have worked if I did not have a relationship with this guy. It would not have worked if he bailed and I wasn't able to keep a distance between him and the other horses. If he had run off, you know, I wouldn't have been able to keep him from the other horses chasing him off. And it wouldn't have worked if I didn't already have a relationship with other horses in the herd. You know, multiple things played into that. But it was definitely a big testament of how much this guy trusts me. Because when I'm not out there, that lead horse told everybody what to do. And I guarantee you, my horse would not have questioned what this horse told him to do. But having me out there kind of changed everything. It changed, and he knew that he was almost, I guess, number 2, because I'm number 1 when I go out there, and he knows that he's on the winning team. So I bring all this up because I think it's a really good example of the kind of trust that God asks us to have with him. In the story of Moses, God chose Moses, and he called him, you know, out in the middle of nowhere being a shepherd, and said, hey, I need you to go all the way back to Egypt. You're going to lead my people out of Egypt and into the promised land, and I will be with you. And now what you got to know about Moses is he was wanted for murder in Egypt. Like, he ran away because he murdered an Egyptian. And his own people, the Israelites, when he came back, you know, they didn't see him as a leader, and they saw him more as a troublemaker at times. Because if you know the story, Moses went to Pharaoh and said, let my people go, and if you don't, God will bring a plague on Egypt. And in response to that, you know, Pharaoh increased the workload for the Israelites. So, you know, like, his own people didn't even want him there and saw him as a menace. And so Moses was like, God, you can't really want me to go back there. Like, how am I supposed to lead these people? How am I even supposed to speak to Moses? Because it says in the Bible that he has like a speech impediment. You know, maybe he stuttered or was really shy or whatever. But he basically said, God, I am the last person who would be qualified to lead your people out of Pharaoh's hands and into the promised land. I don't have leadership skills. I can't speak. And nobody's going to respect me in Egypt. God said that doesn't matter. Because what does matter is that I am with you. I'm sorry, I find that so profound. Every time I think about it, I read it, or I even say it, that God is with you. And that's what God does. God calls his people to trust him, to follow him, to step out and be brave in situations that normally they wouldn't be brave in. You know, just like I was asking my horse to trust me and to go against his natural dynamic in the herd of, hey, you know, you're at the bottom of the totem pole. Boy, and I'm out here. Guess who's getting the treat? You are. You're getting to eat, not the big bad dog up top. And that says a whole lot. That goes against their instinct. I mean, even just the fact that we can train horses to accept a saddle, to accept a rider, to jump over fences or run really fast in a race, you know. All of these things are where we ask the horse to trust us and to go against their natural instincts. And God asks the same thing of his people. He asks you to trust him, and that when he comes into your life, you're no longer seen the same. You're no longer the same person. And he will call you to do things that you're not capable to do. You're not qualified to do. And things that will terrify you and go against your natural instincts or your wants and desires. But God will say, hey, it's okay, because I am with you. And because I am with you, you can do this thing. I'm going to do this thing through you. So I just think that's so profound, and I think too often we tell God, no, I can't because I'm scared, or I'm not good enough, I'm not qualified, I can't do this, God. But we forget that he is with us, and that through God all things are possible. So I hope that story helps. I hope it makes sense, what I was doing. Again, please don't think that I handled the situation the best, because there's always a better way to do it. I'm not a trainer, and so I can't tell you perfectly how horses work and how best to work with them in a herd situation, especially with horses that, you know, don't belong to you. You know, the only thing that I know and that I do stand by as far as my actions go is that when I go out into a pasture, whether it's 1 horse, 5 horses, 8 horses, whatever, I want to be number 1 when I walk out there. That they don't run me over, and that I say what happens, they don't say, they don't push me. So I do know that that's true, but certainly there's a better way to go about it than I did, so please don't just like go out there gung-ho and start chasing horses, because that's not what I was doing. And so please don't think that's what I'm saying you should do, or that I did everything right. But the situation did make, I think, one of the most perfect examples of the trust between horse and owner. Because this guy, I'm very, very proud of how he handled the situation and all the things that I asked him to do. And he says, you know, yes, that he trusts me. And I hope that I can trust God more than my horse will trust me, because there are times that I can fail my horse. That situation could have been bad had I not been on my A game enough to keep that other horse away from him. Because all it would take is one mistake, and then that trust is gone. It would take a long time to build back up again. But thankfully, God is not like that. He is always trustworthy. You can always, always, always depend on Him, that He's got your back, that He's got your best interests in mind, and that He will always protect you. So just trust and obey, and don't let your fear come over you. Don't panic and just bail ship, because then you'll be in a bad way. But trust God, stand firm, and obey Him, and know that He's with you. So I hope that helps. I'm gonna get the mud off of this guy, yeah, and give him some supper. Would you like to eat? Yeah? Well, I hope that helps. I hope that's a good example of the kind of trust that we ask of our horses and the kind of trust that God asks of us. So have a good day, and I will talk to y'all later. Bye. Bye, Sully!